Okay, so today we're going to talk about writing expressions from real-world situations. Our EQ for this is, how can I use variables to write expressions to help me solve real-world problems? Remember, a variable is a letter that we use in an expression to represent an unknown amount. If you need to, make sure you have your chart out that we stapled in your math notebooks a couple days ago. Okay, so here's practice problem number 1. Massley has S stickers. She splits them evenly among 7 envelopes. Write an expression that shows how many stickers are on each envelope. So let's go back and underline what our important ideas are in this problem. So the first one would be, we have S amount of stickers. A clue word in this is that she splits them. And then we also need to underline 7 envelopes. So when we go to write our expression, remember we don't have an equal sign because it's just an expression. She's starting with S amount of stickers, and when you split them, that's our clue word for divide. So she's dividing them amongst 7 different envelopes. Okay, practice problem number 2. Beerbaum has 96 more rubber bands than Lewis. Lewis has R rubber bands. Write an expression to represent how many rubber bands Beerbaum has. Okay, so when we underline our important things, it's 96 more rubber bands, and Lewis has R rubber bands. So we want to start with, how many does Lewis have? She has R, and then Beerbaum has 96 more than her. That's a clue word for addition, so the expression would be R plus 96. Okay, number 3 says Ryan has 32 games. His parents bought him G more games. Write an expression to represent how many games Ryan has. Okay, so underline 32 games. His parents bought him G more games. So he was starting with 32, and they bought him more, so he's adding G, the unknown amount that they bought for him. Okay, and number 4 says, Joe has 67 pieces of candy. He ate X pieces of candy, then he split the rest evenly among his 6 friends. Write an expression that represents the amount of candy that each of Joe's friends received. Okay, this problem is no longer just a one-step problem. So let's go back and underline our important ideas. 67 pieces of candy, that's what he's starting with. He ate X pieces. Then he split amongst 6 friends. So let's start from the beginning. He has 67, then he ate X, which means he's going to subtract the X. Now here's where a lot of students go wrong. They want to just write divided by 6 because then he divided it amongst his 6 friends. But what they forget is that the first thing Joe did was 8X amount of pieces. So you have to show that that's the first thing he did by writing parentheses in the problem. Okay, number 5 says, Miss Massley has C number of chairs split evenly around the 8 tables in her classroom. Write an expression to represent how many chairs are at each table. Okay, so she's starting with C number of chairs. They are being split evenly, we should underline that too, around 8 tables. So the expression is, I'm starting with C number of chairs, an unknown amount, and I'm splitting it, so dividing it, around 8 tables. Okay, number 6 says Mrs. Lagasse ate 5 times as many pancakes as Miss Massley. Use P to represent the amount of pancakes that Mrs. Lagasse ate. So let's go back and underline our important ideas. 5 times as many as Miss Massley, and then we're going to use P to represent the amount. So remember, when we do multiplication, we no longer write it like 5 times P, okay? Because that looks like a 5xp. We don't want to do that. You can either write it as 5 with the dot P, or 5P, or 5 parentheses P. Any of those will be acceptable. Okay, they're going to start to get a little bit tricky here. Number 7, it says it costs $55 to have an Amazon Prime account. Then it costs $10.50 per movie that you rent. Write an expression to represent the cost of renting X amount of movies. Okay, so we're going to underline $55 to have an Amazon account. Then it costs $10.50 per movie. Write an expression to represent the cost of renting X amount of movies. So when solving this problem, we start with $55. That doesn't ever change. Even to get the Amazon Prime account, it's going to cost you $55, whether you rent a movie or not. Okay, and then on top of that, so we're going to add, it's going to cost $10.50 per movie. So if I rent one movie, I'm going to add $10.50. If I rent 2 movies, I'm going to add another $10.50. If I rent 3, I'm going to add another $10.50. So the $55 isn't changing. It's the $10.50 that's changing. So that's what's going to be multiplied by X, the amount of movies. Always ask yourself which of these two numbers is changing, the 55 or the 1050, and whichever one is changing depending on how many movies you buy or whatever's happening, that's what the variable is going to be attached to. Okay, let's look at number 8. It says you are hosting a party at your house. It costs $29 to buy the ingredients for the appetizers and then an additional $4.50 per person. Write an expression to represent the cost of your party if X number of people attend. Okay, let's underline $29 to buy the ingredients. And then it's going to be an additional $4.50 per person if X number of people attend. So that $29, no matter how many people attend, you're paying $29 for the ingredients for the appetizers. It doesn't matter if 2 people attend or 10 people attend. Then on top of that, here's our clue word, additional. On top of that, it's $4.50 per person. The $4.50 is going to change because if you have 1 person, it's $4.50. If you have 2 people, it's going to be an additional $4.50, which will be $9. So the $4.50 is changing, and that's why the X is attached to the $4.50. Now I want you guys to flip your paper over and go ahead and complete the problems on the front.